Hey guys, this is Will from Loops and Worship with our first video blog ever on how to properly subdivide the click in Live. Now, if you've been following the blog on our site, www.loopsandworship.com/blog, you'll notice that this has been one of our most popular articles, how to properly subdivide the click in Live. So we figured if we're going to make our first video blog ever, let's do that on an article that's been really popular, that we've got a lot of response from, and see if we can clarify a little bit, make it a little easier to see things in action, so it's a little easier to understand. First things first, we're going to start with a set list we've got plugged into Live, which would be kind of like what we would typically be using on a Sunday morning. We've got our first song at 60 BPM plugged in, second song at 70 BPM plugged in, and our third song is at 75 BPM, and we've got a couple loops loaded in, so let's fire that. So basically what we would do is Sunday morning we plug all our tempos in and we can just go, okay, song 2, fire, we're good to go. Song 3, we fire, good to go. We can come down here, stop our clips, we're good to go, okay? So this is our basic setup for Sunday morning. Now, subdividing the click is important if you're doing songs at slower tempos. So like with this, at 60 BPM, we hear, obviously between 1 and 2, and 2 and 3, and 3 and 4, and so on and so forth, whatever time signature you're in, for every click that we hear, every beat that we hear, the space between 1 and 2 is a little further apart at slower tempos than it is at faster tempos. So basically what that means is 60 BPM is a little more difficult to play to if you're not used to playing to a click or keeping a steady time than say 115, because the click's a little faster. We have something a little more constant, a little more frequently to follow at 115 than we do at 60 BPM. At 60 we have 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And we go to 120 and we add in our 8s, we now have this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those extra little clicks that we have, we would treat those as eighth notes. So if we were to count it, we could do and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the cool thing is in Live we can go down and we can double all our tempos, which is super easy to do. Now the problem we run into when we do this is if we click our third song here that was originally set to 75 and we have loops loaded in, this is what happens. Some pretty stinking fast loops. So unless you play punk rock music, you probably don't want your loops to fire that quick. We'll double click, and then this will open up our clip view here. Then what we want to do is go down to where we see these little 2s, and our first one here is half original tempo, and our second one is double original tempo. So this gets a little confusing, but essentially what we want to do to play our loop at the original tempo when we double here, so we make this 150, is we want to click double original tempo, okay? Then we'll do this for this loop. Then what happens when we go over here to fire our third song, which is still at 75 BPM, but we're playing at 150, you'll hear our click is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but our loops are playing at the right speed, okay? At the right time, which is great. Now the problem with this is let's cut our loops off so you can just hear the click on this song. Is Live has an accent built in, so what that means is on the downbeat of 1 every time we hear a little bit different click so we can keep up with where that is. So if we're playing at 75 for song 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you watch Live up here as I count, you'll notice that whenever I get to 3, Live is already back at 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And so the problem with this is if you trigger a loop, typically when you trigger loops in Live, that means you can trigger them any point in the measure, and on the next downbeat of 1, then that loop is going to fire, which makes Live a really, really useful, incredible tool for using loops. Now the problem is if we just straight up double this tempo, and even though we correct these loops to play right, is we can't fire anywhere in that first measure, so it gets a little tricky. If we're playing a song in 4/4, we're at 150, we want to go here, we want to change our time signature from 4/4 to now 8/4. So what this means, instead of having 4 quarter notes in the measure, we now have 8 quarter notes in the measure. So we've doubled our tempo, and we've also doubled the first part of our time signature to give us double the amount of beats per measure. So now what we'll hear is we'll hear the click play, and we'll hear 8s rolling, and we'll only hear the accent every measure like we want to on the downbeat 1. So let's try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And you'll see up here live in the transport controls, you'll see that as I count, and it'll count 8s with me, you'll see that the accent only comes on 1, which is where we want it. Let's just try it again. Make sure we're good. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Okay, so that's really, really useful. Now if we turn our loops back on, you'll hear they're now playing correct, and now we have our accent in the correct spot. So this is incredibly useful when you're using live. So what we can do is go up here, and we can adjust this for the rest of these. Do the same exact thing. Okay, and what you can hear is, since we're at 60, we've doubled our beats and we've doubled our tempo. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And our accent is in the right spot, which is perfect. It's super, super easy to do in live, and it makes using live even more useful than it originally was.